This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, where we discuss everything that is fabulous and interesting in the world of sports. I'm Ben.
I'm Alex.
And we are back here on a Monday. We have a busy show scheduled for you today, talking about NFL Week 4, college football Week 5 over the weekend. We had the Ryder Cup go on, the United States win for the first time since 2008. We had the season finale of baseball last night, so we have our playoff matchups, wildcard games tomorrow and Wednesday, and then series a little later in the week. Just a really busy week.
Yeah, it was. It was a busy weekend in general. Yeah, sports week, though.
Sports week, fabulous right now. So, with that being said, we're going to start off the show talking about NFL Week 4.
Yeah, it was a pretty solid week, headlined by a lot of lasts in terms of last Patriots games without Tom Brady. You know, last time that they were shut out at home for, they referred to as 1993, which we'll get to in a minute. But just some games, really, that we'll take a look at. Obviously, the first game of the Sunday stretch of games was in London, England, between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Indianapolis Colts. That game was won by the Jaguars, 30-27. We move back to the States, and we have the Texans defeating the Titans 27-20. The Redskins taking on the Browns and winning that one 31-20. The Seahawks visiting MetLife Stadium and winning that one on the road 27-17 over the Jets. The Bills, like I said, with an impressive 16-0 win over Jacoby Brissett and the Patriots. The Panthers lost another one to the Falcons this week behind an insane performance from Matt Ryan, 503 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Julio Jones, 12 receptions, 300 yards, and 1 touchdown. The Oakland Raiders defeated the Baltimore Ravens on the road, 28-27, in a very close game there. The Lions lost to the Bears at Soldier Field, 17-14, for the Bears' first win of the year. The Broncos won yet another game, moving them to 4-0 over the Buccaneers, 27-7, with Paxton Lynch getting some first reps there at the quarterback position, with Trevor Siemian going down at one point with what looks like a sprained shoulder joint. The Cardinals lost to their NFC West rival LA Rams, who just seem to beat every team in that division nowadays other than the Niners, 17-13 in Arizona. The Chargers give up another late lead to the Saints, back-to-back fumbles on back-to-back possessions. The Saints take that one, and I believe it is Drew Brees' first win ever as a visitor with at Colcom Stadium against the Chargers. They won that one 35-34. A close one at certain points, but eventually was pulled away. The Cowboys defeated the Niners 24-17 there in Santa Clara. And the last game of the Sunday stretch, the Pittsburgh Steelers defeated the Kansas City Chiefs 43-14 on the back of Ben Roethlisberger's 300 yards passing and 5 touchdowns. And the return of Le'Veon Bell and his 144 yards rushing, along with, I think, another 30 or 40 receiving.
Bell did not show any rust last night at all, coming back from the suspension.
Yeah, what I think with him is I was talking to my brother. My brother and I have Le'Veon in a few leagues, and he has Le'Veon and Jamal Charles. And he played them both, and to me, of course, you're going to play Jamal Charles, But what I think the big difference there with them is Jamal Charles started this game but was questionable. He was coming back from an injury still. Le'Veon probably could have played week 1. So I think, as silly as it is, I think the fact that he had the extra 3 weeks just kind of helped him in that sense. In my eyes, at least. He didn't look to be, eased into anything. He looked pretty there. He was a part of the offense, and something that I loved as a Steeler fan is they had him, in a receiver position at times, and they had D'Angelo Williams in the backfield, and there's motions, and you already have an issue when you have to defend Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, let alone when you add somebody who's been just as serviceably good as, Le'Veon at times with D'Angelo Williams. So that was cool to see, and that offense really they had 22 points in the first quarter.
Yeah, that three-headed monster of Roethlisberger, Bell, and Brown is by far the best in the league. Ben Roethlisberger had as many touchdowns as he had incompletions last night, 5.
Sir.
So he and the rest of that offense really lit it up. And then credit to the defense as well. They were up at 1.36-0, so they really just kind of gave it away there at the end when they were maybe playing some weak coverage, So
yeah, they were definitely playing back zone coverage. But, they held that shutout until the fourth quarter, and they even had a four-down stop in the red zone as well in territory. So that was, hands down, probably their best performance of the year, I would imagine.
Yeah, bouncing back after that really bad loss to Philadelphia last week, 34-3, they really showed that they're still one of the elite teams in the AFC. So another elite team in the AFC that I think could be on that cusp right there, Alex, maybe just a step below some of the big boys like Denver and New England, is the Oakland Raiders. They go on the road yet again to beat the Ravens 28-27. The Raiders are 3-1. They have 3 road wins. And all 3 of those road wins are against teams in the Eastern Coast, or, the Eastern Time Zone. New Orleans, Tennessee, and Baltimore. Their only loss was at home to the Falcons, who are also 3-1. I realize the Falcons started 5-0 last year, and then really the rails fell off from there. But the Falcons are looking like they're still a very good team. So I think the Raiders are right there. Derek Carr is playing fabulous. Their defense needs to maybe just shoot things up a little bit, but credit to the Raider defense last week against Tennessee and this week against Baltimore, not allowing a point there at the end. Tennessee was driving to try and get a touchdown and tie the game. Raider defense make a stop. Baltimore's driving at the end, trying to get a field goal. Raiders defense makes a stop. So credit to them. They're making plays when they need to.
Yeah, it's still, it's still a work in progress. They still gave up 412 total yards to the Ravens, who, like you said, weren't able to capitalize and score there at the end. They only gave up 282 passing yards, which is improved, but 130 yards on the ground there to the Ravens. As a fan, if I was a fan of this team, my thing would be they can't compete with the big offenses. Their defense isn't good enough yet. Their offense has shown that it can compete with teams, the Saints week 1. And then they were in that Falcons game, I just think that, if they went to face a team like the fully loaded Patriots or say the Steelers or these teams that are just playing lights out offensively, their defense isn't there yet. And, that's the thing, that's what's going to hold them back from being an elite team this year, I think, unless their defense gets better. I definitely have been impressed by them, though.
Absolutely. You have to be with how they're playing. And already 3 road wins, that's such a good first quarter of the season for the Raiders. And then my other big takeaways of the weekend are the teams who sit at 1-3. Think about this on the NFC side. You have the NFC champion Carolina Panthers and the NFC runner-up in the Arizona Cardinals, both at 1-3, both with quarterbacks going through the concussion protocol, and teams that you would think that were so good last year would be good this year, through a quarter of the way, just not really playing well.
Yeah, I think, you have the Lions, you have the Bears, 1-3, you have the Buccaneers currently at 1-3. But, yeah, you look at teams like the Cardinals, teams like the Panthers, that, were obviously in the NFC Championship last year. And, yeah, they're just not looking the same this year. It's an interesting thing if you look at it. You have the perennial MVP last year, and he has not looked MVP-like at all this year. And you have a defense that was lights out last year, and it hasn't really looked that way at all. Not the same, at least. Whether it's, giving up 300 yards receiving to Julio Jones, or, just allowing the Niners to almost come back at one point in that game earlier this year. Not necessarily come back, but at least make an effort to definitely move towards, closing the gap. But Yeah, I mean, no matter how good your offense has been at times, you can't win in games if you even close if you're giving up 500 yards passing or 300 yards receiving.
No, not at all. And as far as the Panthers go, I wouldn't necessarily jump to the panic button yet. I think they're still going to be okay. For me, the team that needs to panic more so on the NFC side is Arizona, because they are just not playing well, and they're losing games at home. They've already lost 2 games at home, to New England and then yesterday to L.A. They have a quarterback going through the concussion protocol in Carson Palmer, as I said. They're playing on a short week against San Francisco on Thursday. I realize San Francisco is not necessarily one of the best teams in the league, but still, if you're without your starting quarterback, you have some problems there.
I like Drew Stanton, but no, I know what you mean. I mean, I think that this Thursday night game can be a turnaround game for them. I think that the defense is still there. It's not like it's been destroyed or anything. It's just their offense hasn't been performing. You know, they lost 23-21 week 1. Okay, you know, give or take how that game would go. Then they beat the Buccaneers 40-7. Then they lost to the Bills, though, 33-18. Their offense looked bad. And then it didn't look much better last night. Or yesterday, I should say. You know, the Rams' defense, though, is a lot better than people give it credit for. That front seven's playing lights out lately. And then, you know, no matter how hard you try, eventually your offense is going to figure it out. And the Rams have the last couple weeks. So I think this Thursday is really going to be an important game for them. I think they can turn it around with that win. I have them winning that game personally. And they're really going to have to work. Yeah, they're still going to be under 500. You know what I mean? But their defense is there. This is a team that we've seen play dominantly, so I don't have a wonder as to if they can turn around. It's just will they? You know?
Yeah, I still just look at this and have some question marks. They still have a tough schedule ahead. They still have 2 games against Seattle. The Rams seem to always beat them. They're always a tough out, you know, and they already beat them once. So I don't know. I think that they need to rush more to the panic button more so than the Panthers. But, you know, it's only a quarter of the way through the season. We still have a lot more football to play. And then on the other side of that, you look at the Rams. They're sitting at 3-1. If you look at them week 1, you would have thought they were the worst team in the NFL. Get shut out on the road against San Francisco, a team that no one expected anything out of. And they're sitting at 3-1. They're looking really good right now with Case Keenum at quarterback, you know.
Yeah, I mean, their running game got going a little bit, and their defense is really giving them short fields to work with at times. And Keenum, you know, he's always been a quarterback that will limit mistakes, albeit you'll see a performance like week 1 where he was limiting them to the point where he was limiting himself in the offense. But you figure it out, you know, eventually, and they've been putting up enough points to win. I mean, they put up 17, but as long as they don't score more than 16, you're good, you know. And that was the thing, you know, they only scored 13 points yesterday on a touchdown, 2 field goals. That's really what, you know, that's a winning formula. Stop the team on offense and score more points than them. It's as simple as that. You can literally win a game 3-0 with that philosophy, and teams will take it. You know, people won't always think it's the best way to win, but the Rams, yeah, they're playing well. They're sitting at the top of the division at 3-1. They currently followed by the Seattle Seahawks, who are 3-1, but they have the tiebreaker there, and then of course a tie between the Niners and the Arizona Cardinals. But yeah, I mean, they're only averaging 192 yards per game through the air. You know, that's second. It's almost last at 30th in the league. Excuse me, but their points against is only 19. That's 9th in the league total. That's pretty good. You know, that's what when you don't have an offense, you better have a defense. And they do. And what they've done since week 1 has been good. I mean, they have games coming up this week. Excuse me. They're playing the Bills this weekend, I should say. That's another game they could win, I honestly think. I mean, the Bills have been up and down on offense this year. And then they face the Lions. They could win both of those games, especially if their offense plays, you know, at least kind of like they did this weekend. Their defense is playing great.
Yeah, I think the only question for me is how long can that defense really carry the team, and how long can they really step up and lock teams down? I think that's the only question mark. But before we take our break, let's look at Monday night. Tonight we have the Giants going into Minnesota to face the Vikings. Who do we got? I'm going to take Minnesota.
Yeah, I got to take the Vikings. That defense has played lights out. I think at home on a Monday night, you know, they've played great lately. And, I mean, they beat the likes of Aaron Rodgers and the teams they've beaten in the time that they've been playing, they've been better than the up and down Giants. So, yeah, I got to give it to the Vikings. I think that their defense, let alone, is another team that can kind of carry their team with the defense. Sam Bradford's not going to, at least hasn't shown he's going to go out there and just, bulldoze everybody with his arm. The defense has definitely helped them win a lot of those games. The Packers one specifically is one of them that in my mind is that, and the Panthers game, both games that they've really won because of their defense, not necessarily their offense. And I think the same formula, if your defense is that good, you just got to score more, at least one more than the other team.
Yeah, I like Minnesota in this game. I think it'll be a low-scoring game. I think the first team to 20 will probably win the game. So I think that'll be the Vikings. I'll say they win something like 23-17. Eli Manning's has shown this year that he's prone to make mistakes when he's sort of under pressure.
He's shown that his entire career.
Yeah, but this year in particular, think about last week against Washington, a game everybody thought they should have won, and then he, in the fourth quarter, at the end there, throws an interception to sort of give the game away.
Yeah.
Throw an interception in the end zone, so I gotta like the Vikings in this game.
I gotta agree with you. The Vikings, yeah, I imagine them taking this one home tonight, going 4-0.
I agree.
And that is tonight at 5:15 Pacific time, 8:15 Eastern time. All right, let's take our first break. We'll come back and we are going to look at some college football because it was a crazy week in college football also, in regards to some teams falling, some blowouts, and some good head-to-head games, especially that Louisville-Clemson game. That was one that we looked at.
Very good game.
The entire week last week. All right, let's take our first break and we'll be right back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back into the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. We are going to be talking about college football, and we have a new AP Top 25 poll. So the top two unchanged, Alabama and Ohio State. No real surprises there. But coming off of their victory over then number 3 Louisville on Saturday, number 5 Clemson. They won that game 42-36. A great game. Louisville have a chance at the end, needing a 4th and 7. Need to convert that, and they get 6 yards. So sorry, Louisville fans.
That's I blame the receiver for that.
He was just a yard short, and then a good play by the DB to notice where the first down marker was and push him out just a yard short. But with that, Clemson moves up from number 5 to number 3. They jump Michigan, who had a very impressive win on Saturday as well. While the scoreline may not indicate it was 14-7 over then number 8 Wisconsin, still a good win against a top 10 school.
Yeah, we have Washington jumping to 5th from the number 10 spot after them just dismantling Stanford. I personally thought they should have moved to 6, and the now consistently 6. Houston should have moved to 5. I think Houston just consistently played well. I think they deserved to move up in the top 5. I mean, they have played a lesser competition, so I understand the move. Having obviously on Thursday beat Connecticut, they beat UConn 42-14. But I would like to see that personally. Louisville did drop to 7 from the 3rd spot, like you said. We had Texas A&M moving up 1 spot from 9 to 8. We had Tennessee moving up 3 from 11 to 9. And then to round out the top 10, a 4-spot mover, we have the U, Miami moving up from 14 to 10.
They're back in the top 10, Miami. A good win against Georgia Tech in the conference. So you talked about thinking Houston should probably be ahead of Washington. I talked about this with Jeremiah and Anthony on Friday.
I'm not surprised because Jeremiah loves some Houston, so I know he probably said he thought.
And he was with you thinking that they should be in the top 5. But after Friday night's game, Washington absolutely trounces Stanford 44-6. Mm-hmm. And I talked about this with Jeremiah, how I thought that Houston would probably be the one team left out of the top 5 because they look at these polls now and they really value them on a week-to-week basis, it seems like.
Yeah, and strength of competition.
Right. Washington beat Stanford, who was number 7. Now they dropped all the way to number 15. Mm-hmm. But Stanford had faced the 3rd toughest schedule going into that game. Washington, not so much. But then they go in there, and they are at home, was Washington, but they kill them, absolutely kill them by 38 points. So they put out a really strong performance against a top school. Houston go on and beat UConn. You know what I mean? Nothing really impressive there. Mm-hmm. So I'm not surprised that Washington jumped ahead of Houston. And honestly, I think they should have.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised. Like I said, I mean, I get it. I really do. And I'm not surprised that it's like that. Especially because of how strength of schedule is done, you know? So it's not surprising to me. I get it for sure. I mean, Houston has been playing lower competition, you know, the entire year, and you have a Pac-12 team that just beat the number 7 team in the nation. Yeah, it's just how it's going to go. We have some other notables in the top 25, some moves and some drops. Like you said, Wisconsin, they dropped to 11 after losing this week. Nebraska moves up 3, 15-12. You have Stanford, who did drop, like I said, from 7 to 15, you mentioned a second ago. North Carolina is now ranked, coming in at 17 in the poll.
After that big road win against Florida State, they won by 2, 37-35. Florida State, really one of those teams that I guess we can all look at and say was pretty overrated at the start of the year. Already have 2 losses. They lost really bad to Louisville, and then they lose a home game against North Carolina. I guess North Carolina is a good team, but obviously at home, Florida State, a game that they probably should have won, you know, and I think you can say, like I said, Florida State is maybe a little overrated, which in my eyes hurts Louisville. It makes that win really not so impressive anymore.
Yeah, like you said, they're moving down 15. Ooh. Not 15, excuse me. They're moving down 11, sorry, from 12 to 23. We have the lone representative of the Mountain West now at 19, the Boise State
Broncos,
thank you. I was looking at their logo. I was like, why can't I remember what they are? The Boise State Broncos moving up from 24 to 19, with, of course, the other representative of the conference, San Diego State, losing to South Alabama this week, 42-24. Now, of course, San Diego State unranked within their conference and within the AP Top 25. That's a tough loss for San Diego State. Not tough like, oh, man, they should have had that one. I mean, they should have. But
it's one of those.
It wasn't close. They lost it.
It's one of those trap games. You see these teams who are maybe playing really well, get some confidence. They go on the road to face a lesser opponent. It's always one of those games that you sort of circle on the calendar saying this could be a trap game. And obviously they lose. They lose really bad, too. Like you mentioned, 42-24. With all the games that we talked about, one that we haven't, that was just absolutely so shocking with how the ending was number 11 Tennessee against then number 25 Georgia. So Tennessee come out on top 34-31. So if you don't know what happened, you're thinking, oh, they got a field goal victory, you know, not bad. So Georgia actually scored a touchdown with 10 seconds left to go up 31-28. Yes, 31-28.
31-28.
So 10 seconds left, you're thinking, oh, geez, like they just won the game. Mm-hmm. So Tennessee get down.
There's a kickoff that they run back about 45
they get a nice return.
Plus a personal foul penalty.
They had a nice return. So then they have one play from the 43-yard line, and Josh Dobbs goes up and Aaron Rodgers-esque completes a Hail Mary.
Yeah, whatever.
A Hail Mary to win the game. It was really same old Tennessee. They go down at 17-0 against Georgia. They get a touchdown at the end of the half to make it 17-7. And then they come back. Looks like they had the game won. Georgia scores late. Then you think Georgia has a game won. And then Tennessee completes the miracle to stay undefeated. I don't know how this team is still undefeated.
They have trailed in the fourth quarter.
They have trailed in every game, with the exception of when they played Ohio. And they are now 5-0. In 4 of those games, they've trailed by at least 10 points. Yeah, yet they still come back and win. They were down 14 against Virginia Tech, down 21 against Florida, down 14 on Saturday against Georgia, but they still come back and win, and they're still undefeated.
This is one of those wacky things, you know. I mean, they're 2-0 within the SEC. They're, like you said, 5-0. They're playing well, but at the same time, they're not. They're just a slow starting team. It seems like you said, they were trailing 17-7 at one point, and they came out. And at the end of the third, it was 24-14, And then they went and outscored the Bulldogs 20-7 in the fourth.
We're going to see how real Tennessee is with their next two games. The first one is on the road against Texas A&M, which is one of the toughest stadiums to play in all of college football. And then after that, they have a home game against Alabama. So if they get off to bad starts,
especially against
I don't see them coming back against either of these two teams if they get off to the starts they've shown all year long. They need to get out of the gates and jump on A&M quickly. Mm-hmm. Because if they fall back, I think they're in for a long night. Georgia, although they are a good opponent, not necessarily the elite class of the SEC like Alabama has shown so far, and really Texas A&M right now, obviously the second highest team in the SEC behind Alabama. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. So they can't afford to jump back from the back and then move their way up. It just not against these teams.
It's not going to work. And before we take our last break here, two other teams that were upset this week is California beating Utah. Cal won that game 28-23.
I was shocked when I saw this. This was my upset of the week. Yeah. Cal technically was favored by 2, and I thought Utah would go into Cal Berkeley and win that game. Cal going into the game was giving up 42 points a game. One of the worst in the nation. And then they go on and only give up 23 to Utah. If you would have told me that Cal scored 28 points, I would have said they got killed because their defense couldn't even stop a nosebleed. But on Saturday, they played absolutely phenomenal at defense.
Yeah, I mean, they gave up 99 yards rushing to Utah's running back on 25 carries. He did have 2 touchdowns, but it looked like they were led by their offense in this game for sure. 306 yards and 4 touchdowns from Davis Webb, their quarterback. 98 yards receiving from Chad Hansen, the receiver, who added 2 touchdowns to that. Offensively, they played great. And then another of the 2 I wanted to mention in terms of upsets, you have Indiana at home defeating 17th-ranked Michigan State.
Michigan State dropping their last 2 games, Saturday to Indiana, and then the week before that they got killed by Wisconsin 30-6. I guess Michigan State, another one of those teams along with Florida State that you looked at the beginning of the year thinking they could be okay, but really just a little overrated. So
yeah, I mean, they both won in this game at 2-1 from the Big Ten. I mean, if you look at it that way, I mean, it's not like they were that separate between one another really in skill, it looked like, in a sense. But at the end of this game, 24-21, you have Michigan State, who not only are 2-2, but they're 0-2 in their own conference in the Big Ten. So they got some work to do. But let's go ahead. We'll take our last break. We'll come back, and we will talk baseball here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
I want to talk to you today about compression gear. Compression gear is popular with professional and amateur athletes everywhere to prevent injuries and for helping heal injuries. Sleeves has the coolest collection of compression gear around. Sleeves carry sizes for women and men as well as kids. Get compression sleeves in over 200 designs to match your teammates and uniforms. Check out the huge collection of styles and sizes or order something custom for your team at Sleeves. Get 20% off plus free shipping on purchases of $50 or more when you use the code SPORTSPODCAST. Visit Sleeves, that's spelled SLEEFS.com today. That's SLEEFS.com. Sleeves.com.
And we're back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, where we're going to discuss the last bit of news today, and that is the MLB playoffs that are about to be in full swing starting tomorrow, as Ben said. We have some games coming up, man. We have some games, and I'm pretty excited. Are you?
I'm absolutely excited. Yesterday we had the season finale, the regular season finale, I should say, and really every team basically won, so everything was locked in place. You think about this whole weekend, the Dodgers did not beat the Giants. The Giants really handled business. The Cardinals handled business. The Mets. But the problem is with every team winning, no team can really move up.
Yep.
So you have on the NL side, as far as the wild card game, you have that on Wednesday. You're going to be having the Mets against the Giants. You're going to have Noah Syndergaard, Thor against Mad Bum, Madison Bumgarner. A great, great pitching matchup at Citi Field.
I call him Big Country, so Thor versus Big Country.
There you go.
Now, I got to go to his start and Ty Block's start this weekend for the Giants, so Friday and Saturday. And yeah, those it was loud. Those some killer games.
And
some
then
great games to go to.
On the American League side, we had both the Orioles and the Blue Jays win. So they actually finished with identical records, but the Blue Jays hold the tiebreaker in that sort of series. So they'll be playing their wild card game at home against the Orioles.
Did the Mets win yesterday, or did they? I thought no, they lost yesterday. They lost to the Phillies. So
But they had already clinched.
Yeah, but the Giants and the Mets finished with identical records as well, I believe.
Yeah, the Mets have that little added bonus as well. So.
So they have home field, and then, of course, like you said, Toronto has the home field heading into this one. So Tuesday, we have that matchup. The winner of that goes on to face...
In the American League, they'll be facing the Texas Rangers. So they're awaiting the wild card team in the American League. And then in the other ALDS matchup, we have the Boston Red Sox against the Cleveland Indians. The Indians are going to be the team with the advantage, home field advantage in that series. So I do expect Boston to win that series, though. I do like their hitting. I think the Indians' pitching is a little bit injured right now, and they don't have nearly the hitting that Boston does. Boston has two pretty good starters, and Rick Porcello, who's probably an American League Cy Young candidate, and then David Price, who we've known in the past with the Rays and with the Tigers that he's obviously capable of winning a lot of playoff games. So, and then in the American League we have Texas. As far as who I think will advance between Baltimore and Toronto, I think Toronto's starting pitching is a little better.
Yeah, I think Toronto's going to win that one personally.
I think Baltimore has a little bit better of a lineup, and if Baltimore can get the game to their bullpen, I think they're solid. Look at Zach Britton, the closer for the Orioles. He has not blown a save all year. He's got an ERA under 1. So if the game goes to him, I gotta think they're gonna win. I'm gonna take Baltimore on the road.
Okay, so I'm gonna take Toronto on this one personally, and of course you said they're gonna move on. They would move on and they'll face off against the
Rangers.
Rangers, thank you. I keep forgetting. Yeah, Texas Rangers. I forgot they're good this year, man.
They're best team in the AL record-wise.
Yeah. And then we look at the NL. Of course, we have the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Washington Nationals locked in. The winner of the Mets-Giants game on Wednesday will go on to face. I forgot again. They're going to go on to face the best team in baseball, arguably, to some people's eyes, and that is the Cubs, who, of course, have home field advantage. They had the best record in baseball by far this year. They lights out. This is a tough game. The Mets have played well, and the Giants have played really well as of late. It's going to be, like you said, Syndergaard and Bumgarner on Wednesday. That's just two of the best pitchers right now in baseball. This is a hard game for me to look at because, like I said, the Giants have been playing really well as of late, but you can't look past their lack of a deep bullpen in terms of late game help. If this is a close game, as a Giants fan personally, I mean, I wasn't comfortable, at times this weekend when it was, 4 or 5 run difference. I'm like, oh, I've seen this happen, So, honestly, if I think the Mets have it close, if they're trailing by 2 or if they're winning by 2, I don't see the Giants winning it.
I think this game has a few good storylines. I think one thing that's going to be tough for the Giants is you have them going from West Coast to East Coast.
Yeah,
I realize there's a few days in between, but still, you have sort of that jet lag wear on people. That has an effect.
Doing it all year, though.
That has an effect, though.
I mean, it
does. When you think about teams that are playing teams on the East Coast, usually they'll play, like on the NL side, they might play the Mets, and then they'll go play the Phillies and the Nationals all at the same time, so they're already on the West Coast or on the East Coast, so they have sort of that adjustment period. They're not just traveling all the way there for one game. So I think that could have an effect on the Giants. You mentioned the bullpen. The Giants' bullpen is absolutely dreadful. So if they're maybe up, I don't know, in the 7th inning 3-2, I think the Mets have a good shot because the Giants' bullpen is dreadful. I think the Mets have
at least the back end of it.
Exactly. I think the Mets have better hitting. You think about Yoenis Cespedes, Jose Reyes has been really good since he came back there.
Yeah.
Jay Bruce is capable of hitting home runs. I think their hitting's a lot better. I'm going to give the edge to the Giants, though, for 2 reasons. Number one, you're throwing out Madison Bumgarner, who's been statistically one of the best postseason pitchers of all time.
Statistically, he is the best.
And then
at least World Series pitcher.
I think you have the leadership of the Giants team. Think about Bumgarner. Think about Hunter Pence. Think about Buster Posey, Brandon Crawford. These guys have multiple World Series wins.
Yeah.
The Mets got there last year, but they don't have that necessarily good experience. They got swept by the Royals. So I'm going to give the edge to the Giants. And I will say this. The Cubs better hope the Mets win this game and not the Giants. Because the Giants are the one team in the NL that at least starting pitching-wise can match what they are bringing. You think about Bumgarner, Cueto, Samardzija, and Matt Moore. they can match up against John Lackey, John Lester, Jason Hamill, and Kyle Hendricks.
Yeah, I mean,
and you throw in Jake Arrieta as well. So I think probably Hamill will be that guy left out.
Yeah, I mean, currently the Giants have 4 potentially solid starters. Like you said, Bumgarner, Cueto, Samardzija, Matt Moore, and then even if they need to throw them out there, Block pitched 4-hitter the other day. He pitched really well.
And you got 2 hits off Kershaw, let alone.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. So, I remember reading this weekend that they said the NL teams, and I think some of the AL teams did too, of teams in the wild card, the one team they didn't want to get into the playoffs if they could choose with the Giants, because it's just what they do. They get into these, playoffs even years, and it's I try not to go along with that because I think it's silly. I mean, it is a fact. Yes, they've won the last 3 even year World Series that there were, but yeah, they get in here and they just find a way to win. And I agree with you. I might give them edge in that sense. They've been there before. This is their 3rd straight even year elimination game, dating back to 2012. At least, they had an elimination game in 2012, right? Or was it just a wild card series still then?
Well, technically, the wild cards are always elimination.
But
style,
one game,
right?
Because I know they played in Pittsburgh in 2014. So I forget if they did before that. But if that's the case, okay, then 2nd straight. I think they have just as good of hitting in terms of guys that are opportunistic in the way they hit, whether it's Buster Posey, who has definitely picked up his slump to end the year there. I think guys like Joe Panic and Hunter Pence have been on lately. Crawford's been hot. I think you're right. They have better pure hitters with the Mets, but I wouldn't put it past the Giants. They put up, more than 5 runs in each of their games against the Dodgers. And it's not that the Dodgers weren't playing for nothing. Like, they were just giving them away. They were playing for home field. They were playing to keep a division team out of the playoffs. They were playing for a road division win against their number 1 rival. They're playing for, if you have the baseball purists on the team, playing for Vin Scully's last games. You have all this stuff, and and the Giants really handled that series. So they couldn't have finished any better heading into the playoffs. So it's going to be a great 2 games. It really is.
And I think that sort of momentum will be feeding off on the Giants. When you look at Bruce Bochy as a Giants manager, he's never lost a series in his playoff career.
Yeah.
So that's really impressive, although his time with the Padres, not so much. But with the Giants, he's never lost a series as a manager in his whole entire career in Frisco. Mm-hmm. I think that has sort of a lot to do with a lot of things. You have a lot of great players, good pitching. You have a good mentality. And I think this past week, when you look at the Giants, they've kind of been in playoff mode.
Yeah, they really have.
I think that has a lot of benefits.
Yeah, I think they know, like you said, when it started coming down to the real nitty-gritty in the wild card race, a lot of people just, really kind of almost conceded the fact the Giants are probably going to make it in because it's just what they've done. And again, I'm never comfortable as a Giants fan watching Giants games as of late, just because I know how they go. And even back in 2014, my buddy was like, "Oh, he's a diehard Red Sox fan, and they didn't make it that year." But he's like, "Oh, bet the Giants don't make the playoffs this year." And I was like, "Honestly, man, they might make the playoffs, but I don't see them winning the World Series." I didn't think our starting pitching at that point was good enough. And I remember he tweeted me that, and I saved that tweet. And the day they won the World Series, I screenshotted it and I sent it to him. I was like, Yeah, here you go, man. Kind of deal like that. But yeah, you can never put it past this team. And like you said, the Mets have been there. The Dodgers and the Nationals. That's going to be a good series. As unfortunate as it is, the Dodgers seem to get in these playoffs all the time, and it's almost like they can't flip that switch to playoff time.
Exactly, and that's one of the reasons I do like the Nationals in this series. I think they have a little bit more starting pitching. Obviously, the Dodgers have the edge on one guy, with being Clayton Kershaw.
But then again, Clayton Kershaw hasn't been the Clayton Kershaw of the regular season in the postseason really ever. I mean, I think save for one start in his postseason
last
career.
year he had a good couple of starts.
Mm-hmm.
But you talked about the Dodgers. They just seem to not be able to win a series when it comes playoff time. And if you have that in your mind again and again and again, that you keep struggling in the postseason, while you may not want to think about it, in the back of your mind, you're going to be thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the Nationals...
Because you're going to get asked about it all week.
Right.
The entire series and be like, say you go down 2 games and be like, well, what's this say about, your team? They haven't really been able to close out any series in the playoff. It's going to be around, whether or not you're I personally think when you're a professional sports athlete, you need to let those things happen away from you. You can't let them be in the back of your head, especially when you're playing a game. I feel like your mind's always going to be within the game itself, unless you're a guy like Pablo Sandoval, who apparently likes to Instagram while he plays baseball. But, your mind should be on the game. So I think, in that sense, food trucks here. Yeah, it's a good day. In that sense, you're not going to sit there and go, while you're down 2 games, be like, God, we can never close a series. I think it's just going to be around the team press-wise,
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely something that has to sort of be weary on your mind. Mm-hmm. And as the series goes on, we'll have to see if that really has an effect on them and how Clayton Kershaw does. He's going to be starting game 1. So
yeah, he's against Max Scherzer. And
on the road, Max Scherzer, that's going to be a tough matchup for Kershaw and for the Dodgers. But as always, we will keep you updated on the postseason here at the GSMC Sports Podcast. I know tomorrow you'll probably be previewing the American League wildcard game. Wednesday, you, me, and Anthony will be talking about the NL wildcard game, also recapping the American League wildcard game from tomorrow night. So it's a good time to be a baseball fan. Playoffs are here.
Yeah, and don't forget to tune into the GSMC Baseball Podcast, which is hosted by Ben here joining me, and Jeremiah as well.
Yeah, for a more in-depth look at the postseason.
Yes. Yeah, because we'll definitely give you a recap of the game, stat lines and such, but we won't go into them as much because Tuesdays and Wednesdays we have the Monday night recap. Wednesdays we have, prep for a lot of different stuff. So, Wednesday we might be able to go into Tuesday's game a little deeper. Thursday is going to be a jam-packed day of sports in general. We're going to have the NL wildcard game recap. We're going to have preview for the Thursday night games in football and college and NFL. We're going to have a look towards who will be facing one another in the MLB, the NLDS and the ALDS matchups in that sense. So it's going to be a pretty busy week here at the Golden State Media Concept Sports Podcast. But until then, we're done. And I'll be back tomorrow. Ben will be back on Wednesday, of course. And we'll be here to tell you all the great news in the world of sports. But as always, thank you guys for listening. You can find us on our website, gsmcpodcast.com. where you can find all of our wonderful shows in our portfolio page. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at GSMC_sports, as well as on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play if you search GSMC Sports. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook as well at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast or the GSMC Sports Podcast or Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. And as always, we thank you for listening. I'm Alex.
I'm Ben.
And we will see you next time.